This is episode 33. Peter BURWASH and Peter BURWASH International, one of our pillars of the GreatBase curriculum.
And let's get going. Roll on.
Let's do.
From last week, part one, I heard from several people. Here are a couple comments.
Yeah.
These are from people who participated in PBI training.
Right.
It gave us a global view. It was totally about being professional. This is a great comment. Made everyone realize that there was a place for them in the tennis industry. Stated how the training still helps them to this day, and many of them are not currently in tennis. One person said that they loved how every session ended with feedback and thinks that tennis practices should end up the same way.
Yeah. I remember the Vic Braden Tennis College's coaches, we, at the end of a 3-day camp, we handed out a questionnaire that people would fill out and let us know how we did as coaches. It was great to get feedback.
Yeah, I'm curious, where do ideas come from? Just today, I was talking to a coach who was talking to me about how he really likes the warm-up that the team, the Ohio State, Ty Tucker's team does. Mm-hmm. The warm-up before the match. And Ty Tucker, the young Ty Tucker, when he started at Ohio State, Craig Tiley was at the University of Illinois. In Illinois, would do a very much a dynamic warm-up. And I know that those ideas came for Craig Tiley, those ideas came from Peter BURWASH. Tiley was with us for 7 years. Mm-hmm. So that means, 7 different times he went through the BURWASH training.
Right.
Not that the drills that Ty does are, say, PBI drills, but it really creates a wow factor. The opposing team looks over and goes, wow.
Yeah. And these guys have come to play.
The drills are action-packed, and they really are a spin-off from many things that take place in the PBI, traveling show. Mm-hmm. But more on teaching. Circle volley drill. In the 70s and 80s, the tennis boom put so many people on tennis courts. Peter himself played like an acrobat. What you do is you create a circle. It could be 4 to 6 players. And you could do it on a field. Nice thing about doing it on a field is it's very good to have kids, with their warm-ups. Next thing you know, their warm-ups are dirty.
They've got dirty.
Get some grass stains.
Yeah.
You can do it on a tennis court. There's many variables. The person is in the middle. So say the person is there's 5 players circled around the player, and they volley to the player in the middle of the circle. And the circle has the person in the middle volleys around the circle, going to each of the 5 players.
Yeah. And
then you add variables. The players to the outside after they hit a touch volley back into the middle. Person standing in the middle, they have to do a knee touch volley, 4 inside, back inside. So by the time balls hit a 5th time, it's back to them. Mm-hmm. You can do it where the person in the middle has to actually fall on their fanny and keep falling as they volley. They fall down, they get back up.
We've got one video. Just not to. Well, I guess to cut you off, but we do have one video we posted on Instagram. It was actually George Goldoff, I believe, who was going down on his fanny every time to do it. So you could scroll back and check that out. We may have another video when you were in South Africa working with some coaches and players.
Yeah, with
right by the Lions.
Petrus, how do you pronounce it? Kukimore. Did you say Petrus' his last name?
Petrus Kukimore.
I remember doing a camp with him in South Africa and doing that. Jeff Coetzee, he coaches a doubles team from Colombia now, and he actually himself did quite well. Amazing story. Talk about Jeff in length sometime, but I just think of Jeff being like the best at that drill.
Quick.
I can remember doing a boot camp at the University of Illinois. It's like, okay, what am I going to start with? And it was for the women's team. Jennifer Roberts had spent 2 years with us, and then she spent a year at the Vic Braden Tennis College, but then she was the coach of the women's team.
Yeah.
She was there before Craig Tiley was. Mm-hmm. So that's the first drill. Okay, girls, let's go over here on the field. And people get so much better at it if they just they just give it a go.
Yeah.
We used to do those tennis courts like they do with tennis players. You can do it on a tennis court. They have to catch themselves a little bit, but they do it on a field. Years ago in physical education classes, the PE classes, like a football team, everybody's running in place, and the instructor just goes, hit it. Everybody just throws their body chest first onto the ground.
That ain't happening too much these days.
So circling back, Peter's a go-getter. He called me. I didn't call him. He made it happen. He was the first headliner who came to our program called Tennis Tech.
Mm-hmm.
We were so fortunate. Peter, when I think of him calling me, he once called my older brother. And my older brother called me up and asked. My older brother was the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time. Actually, he was the associate general manager. And Peter had contacted him. My brother called me up, and I said, yeah, you should have Peter speak. Because Peter requested the opportunity to speak with his childhood team. Peter's from Ontario, grew up right outside of Toronto. My brother gave it some thought, but unfortunately, he didn't give Peter the opportunity he requested. I think it was a mistake. I think anytime anyone can listen to Peter talk about motivation, sign up. Peter's introduction to nutrition, he's probably as known as much for his contributions to tennis or as to wellness, health and nutrition as he is to tennis.
Yeah, we put up a video of his on nutrition on our Facebook page. You can search it out. Yeah,
we followed up. For years and years, Peter's company was in Hawaii. He's on the beach playing frisbee. Frisbee by chance hits a gentleman sitting on the beach. Peter, being a polite Canadian, goes up to apologize. He does more than just apologize. He talks to the man. Next thing you know, he goes to his seminar on nutrition, and really the rest is history. In our library, comments applying to old people like myself, the heart is 100% a muscle. These are just a few things. Ride a bike, walk in your pool, walk 120 beats per minute. If you're lazy, this is a great Peter Burwash comment. If you're lazy, get a dog, because you got to take your dog for a walk. It takes 10 minutes to start to burn fat. Muscle deteriorates in 24 hours. You really, and this is not for old people, this is for the athletes too, is monitor your heart rate to see how hard you're working. What's your recovery rate?
Now, so you have done a bit of walking in the pool.
Yes, I have done that. I've ridden the bike.
Multitasking. So is that where you got that idea, was from Peter?
No. When it comes down to it, we start charting how many times I say that. When it comes down to it, no.
Just go with it.
You need to shadow swing. Get an old wooden racket, get the old racket cover, get in the pool and shadow swing.
Yeah.
So many things that you can do in a pool.
Mm-hmm.
220 minus your age, try to reach 70%, do that 4 or 5 times a week.
Wait, what is this? 220 minus your age?
Yeah, so you get your pulse rate. That's
gotcha.
Then try to maintain that. But there's so much on nutrition. Actually, I took a course at the graduate level of nutrition, and it was way over my head. Got an A, but I knew left there thinking I know absolutely nothing. And it was all these medical people, and you really had to have a high level of understanding of biology and chemistry. The professor's really, really talented. Comes in with this huge box of books, and he throws everybody 3 books, and you had to write a book report on each one. And I remember one, and I think it was very clever. It was called the One Room Diet. If you were just to eat in one place, can't eat in your car, can't eat on the couch, you just have to, can't eat on the go. You got to just eat in one place.
Yeah.
So anyway, Peter Burwash, high energy. But nutrition's huge. Yeah. 75%, most people say it's 75% of fitness. Here's a Peter Burwash tactic I use almost every day. When I'm speaking to a group of juniors, coaches, I stop and ask listeners what I just said. Peter would constantly stop during lecture and say, only a handful of you are listening. Now it's only 3. Now it's 2. He really demands eye contact, and he gets it.
I think just saying, Because I see you do that with players where you got a group of players and you're speaking, and just every once in a while, even if they are all listening, but you'll just go, some of you aren't listening. And it just kind of wakes everybody up just to make sure, oh, wait, I am listening.
Yeah, someone as dynamic as Peter BURWASH. I think of the comedian actor Eddie Murphy. You know, he has a tactic where he just starts talking very loud to someone. And you know, the pressure. You know, it's this one where people start to shake and freak out. It's like,
yeah,
you really mean if I'm just going to raise my voice and you panic? And I think so many kids with the goal of playing college tennis, how are you going to do when it's 3-all, you're the last match out, your team wins, and then your team continues on in the national tournament? So yeah, the sooner the better you can try to have people get away from stage fright. Just more on PBI. They have their own magazine. They've served as a consultant for many federations. They actually founded the ITF Wheelchair Championships. They turned it back to Brad Parks. Peter just thought he would be a better representative. Brad, one of the best wheelchair players of all time. I can remember working for Vic Braden when Brad, who got hurt in a water skiing accident, took up tennis. And Vic was a coach helping him out.
What was the connection there with Peter and wheelchair tennis to start those championships?
Well, as we mentioned last week, Peter, maybe it's also in my notes here to finish out, with teaching the deaf, teaching the blind, semi-blind, teaching in prisons.
Yeah. Trying to take the game to everybody, basically.
Yeah. You know, and you get half dozen people to come to a wheelchair clinic. That's you know, that's an amazing turnout. But I've had a lot of fun working with wheelchair players. I would say those are the real heroes in wheelchair tennis. We just talked about that in the new episode we had called Steve's Stories.
Steve's Stories, yeah, check that out.
Yeah, Maru Yamohiro Michi-san, Shingo Kuneda.
Yeah.
They won 45 majors.
No big deal.
With this is a great Peter BURWASH, the upside down triangle. If someone's in charge, you should see that person who's in charge. Say it's a tennis director. You know, you see him with a mop, you see him with a broom. They can get their hands dirty.
Yeah.
They don't delegate
Picking up
everything
garbage.
down. Yeah, the garbage is get in line, do what everybody else does, and then earn people's respect instead of always say, okay, that's not for me. That's somebody else's job to do.
Yeah.
But that's what a philosophy of Peter BURWASH International is: put yourself at the bottom of the triangle, flip it around. You know, so again, the top guy, top gal, they can pick up a broom, get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
That's the best way to win over your staff. Just the CEO, the tennis directors, do what people don't like to do. In other words, do the work somebody else doesn't want to do. PBI, I've taught over 3 million people. That may be outdated. That number may be larger right now. Impacted people around the world. Philosophy, this is a great one. Go where you are needed, opposed to where you will benefit the most. Just go where you're needed. Go where you can benefit others, not just benefit yourself. Be service motivated, have positive intensity. Take care of your employees, and your employees will take care of your customers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, in any kind of business leadership book, that's one of the biggest things. It's just, you know, employees, it's not their business. So if you can take care of them and make them feel like they have, you know, some ownership or pride in the company, then they're going to go the extra mile. PBI, and certainly Peter and his associates, his staff members, exceed expectations, add extra value. Everything is based on a high standard and high moral conduct. Without swearing, it's the bloody principles. I think Peter, as a hockey player, he probably heard a little profanity. The days where it's the effing principles, but maybe you could say that like in an English accent or something. You know what I mean? That could have the same effect. Can you try it?
Well, people who do have say with the English language, they have
you could do it with I'm sure you could do it with Irish too.
A little bit of
it's a bloody principle, isn't it? Like something like that.
You could do that. I think I just experienced this so many times, especially in other countries. And now we're a little too politically correct in America. I know,
No way.
certainly swearing, not condoning it, but it's a little bit over the top. But that could be something we could talk about. Coaches will swear because they're very upset, and swearing makes their heart rate go down a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's all about principles.
Yeah.
Here's one: don't be late. Can't be great if you're late.
That's a big one. I remember before Vic Braden passed away, we were working on a project with young kids that had come from difficult circumstances and were achieving academically and in life in general. And we had them interviewing famous people like General Colin Powell. And one of the people that I was able to meet was fun too, was Chevy Chase. But one of the things they had in common, all these people, was don't be late, to be punctual with time, to respect other people's time.
With PBI, if you're late, tennis teacher professionals late for a lesson, you fine yourself, you teach the lesson for free, and then you pay the company a $50 fine. Emphatic. I heard that every time we would have a seminar with him. Peter, a mentor of his was Peter Uberhoff, mastermind in the 1984 Olympics, former commissioner of Major League Baseball. Peter says, which I agree with, that tennis really needs to be a commission. Tennis needs a commissioner. The alphabet soup. Certainly each organization can have its own head, but it comes down to...
When it comes down to...
there needs to be some rules and regulations. There needs to be some direction. But tennis needs to go forward.
Yeah.
Growth and welfare. Dress code. People may laugh at this now. Coat and tie. Always travel with a coat and tie. One time I was invited to dinner with Arthur Ashe, Arthur Ashe. I was with the Davis Cup team, and I was staying in the same hotel, but I was also based like 45 minutes north of Hamburg, Germany at that time, just for the summer. And
I see.
I remember the late Ken Flack and Robbie Seguso. I remember I was teaching them how to tie a tie. But
what kind of knot?
I could not elaborate, but I could tie a tie. I went to a prep school. You had to wear a tie everywhere you went.
Yeah.
With, I think people laugh at that. A restaurant in Southern California, not too far from the Vic Braden Tennis College years ago, if you walked in with a necktie, they would cut your necktie off. You could leave with your necktie as is, but if you wanted to come in and sit down, but you came with a necktie, they actually cut it off, and then they had up in the rafters all these neckties hanging. I can remember going out to California in the 80s and would show up with khaki pants and a blue shirt and have the blue blazer over your arm, the sport coat.
Yeah.
And not anymore.
Like, dude, what's up with you?
Actually, in our course, Tennis Intelligence Applied, this is because I have bad feet. But I was wearing sandals, and I still reprimanded. That course is 10 years old by now. We're 15.
I still stick up for you. I deal with people all the time.
I'm not going to listen to that guy. He's wearing sandals.
Yeah. Well, that was the cool thing, though, back in the day. Sandals with long socks.
Yeah, I've never been too cool. Standards have been lowered. Standards have been lowered regard to dress. One doesn't need to dress fancy. One doesn't need to dress expensive, but one needs to be, this is all from PBI training, dress appropriately. Got to tell this story about Bob Carmichael. Bud Collins' books, there's 1 and 2, Reader's Tennis Digest. And for a long time, I just thought Bud had written every article, so I didn't really pay attention to the byline. But I tell this story all the time to late starters in tennis, the late Bob Carmichael. Love to tell the story. Carmichael, they called him Nails from Australia. And I thought it was because he was tough as nails, but it was because he had gone through an apprenticeship to be a carpenter. Now, he had the toughness from knowing how to play Australian football. I just tried to be a boxer first. So he became a tennis player. But, they say that he was a club player, C player, 21 years old, really had not played much tennis. And 10 years later, he's in the quarterfinals of Wimbledon. So I've even had that article printed out and handed out and said, okay, here's, because a lot of kids are, coming to you, it's late start, bad start.
Yeah.
They're 17, 18, 19 years old, and they think they're ready for the old folks home. I mean, I tell people all the time, you're 19, you double your life, you're still young.
Yeah.
So I just had never paid attention to the byline, but I knew the story of Peter traveling, shoestring budget, no money, trying to go from one country to the next. So this is years later, the visual on this, as I look at the article and it says, by Peter BURWASH. And when I first started reading the article, I would have barely known who Peter BURWASH was. But by the time I had read the article, Bob Carmichael was long retired and Peter BURWASH was famous and he was training our students, and it goes, by Peter BURWASH.
Yeah.
That's just a story.
Cool.
Let's go a few more things here with Peter BURWASH. A lot of years have gone by with Julian Krinsky, that Peter's in Carmel, California. Mentioned in the first podcast, he's 10 years older than I am. He used to travel 300 days a year, doesn't travel to that extent anymore. I know he's really well read. As far as tennis magazines, tennis newspapers, because a lot of all the years have gone by, Peter's called me up a few times because he's read something that I've written. I think he would love. I'm going to guess that he might be like me, where he's a dinosaur and he's not really connected on social media, but I think he would really love what you're doing with Instagram, trying to just improve tennis teaching. Mm-hmm. Here are a few PBI pearls. If you read through his book, he's refreshingly honest. On the tour, I was a nobody.
You don't get a whole lot of that these days. It's actually like they say, I was on the tour. It's like, I remember talking to Jill Drucker about this, who I became good friends with through the Indian Wells tournament. Over every year we would kind of have our reunion there. But, oh yeah, I played on the tour. It's like, no, you didn't. You played qualies and futures or whatever it is. People exaggerate their playing background. So we always used to joke around about how so many people would say, yeah, I played the tour. So,
macho male ego. The older I get, the better I was.
Yeah.
We needed down the road, once we go through the educational merit behind the GreatBase or pearls, we need to get your friend Joel Trucker on the line. I remember.
Yeah, we'll get him on.
I've never met him in person, but I certainly remember talking to him on a conference call with you, and the story with him he's going to write an autobiography. He's going to work with Connors on a book about Connors, but it never really happened. So then he wrote a book called Jimmy Connors Saved My Life.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, yeah, I want to get together with you. We can have a little bit of debate, because I think I know more about Jimmy Connors than you do. In fact, I think I know more about Jimmy Connors than Jimmy Connors.
He was up for that challenge too.
He was up. Oh, and I say that, I just mean, as far as, it's amazing how the pros, they really don't know. It's from a technical standpoint, it's amazing how the pros, and there's a lesson in this. They don't know that much about their own game. Mm-hmm. They're free and they just hit it.
Yeah.
They just hit it. Big Brave, when you start thinking about technique in a match, you're going to finish second in the field of two. Yeah. Peter, I knew after one point when I was playing Arthur Ashe at the U.S. Open that it was in over my head. One story in his book of pearls, 13 match points, and he didn't force. He just,
was hoping that
hit and hope, baby. Yeah. Is a great BURWASH pearl.
I'd take it.
You can only practice two things. He is a man of words. He puts things very well. You only practice two things: good habits and bad habits.
That's great. It's worth repeating.
It's amazing how kids. It's like, no, you're practicing bad habits. You're just getting better at getting worse.
Yeah, we use that the term myelin from Daniel Coyle's book. He really kind of brought that to the forefront about what myelin is, but we use that good myelin and bad myelin. Somebody's got a lot of good myelin, or they're developing a lot of bad myelin.
Yeah, actually, the Swedish professor at Florida State, Dr. Erickson, he just recently passed away.
Yeah.
great story about Dr. Erickson. So with myelin, the brain produces myelin through repetition and with motor programming, speed and smoothness. And the person lecturing was talking about myelin. And this gentleman raised his hand, asked the question. It's a long lecture. He raises his hand, makes a second point. And then the speaker was a little frustrated with him. And the speaker said, well, Dr. Erickson's research on myelin. And he said, well, excuse me, I am Dr. Erickson.
Yeah, that's the best.
With back to BURWASH, here's a great one. There is pressure, but one needs to counter pressure with pressure. You don't want to run away from it. There's a book, a squash coach who's done so well at Trinity University up in Connecticut. Run to the Roar. The old lion who's got the strong vocal cords. They scream at the antelope or they roar at the antelope, and the antelope turn and run into the other lions, hunting as a team.
Yeah.
Develop a gutsy attitude. Not just an attitude, but a gutsy attitude. Have some guts. Mm-hmm. No guts, no glory.
I had this acting teacher in LA who used to say, leap and the net will appear. I always liked that.
That's good.
Just go for it.
Leap and the net will appear.
Yeah.
BURWASH Pearl, never let your opponent know you are tired or frustrated. I need to say that every day. Never let your opponent you're tired or frustrated. The great minds, people around the game. Lynette Fetter, obviously, she had a little bit to do with her son becoming a great player. Mm. There's a YouTube clip where she's interviewed, and there's a chink in your armor. You're showing weakness every time you crack like that. People crack like glass. This is wide range. Grips vary from player to player. That's where there's palmistry, and people can read the lines in your hand, tell you your fortune. Here's a BURWASHism. Fast feet, slow arm. When you think about that, it looks just the opposite. People usually have slow feet and a fast arm.
Yeah.
Peter BURWASHism, I've said this so many times. The contact point is the moment of truth. Strings don't lie.
Yep.
Here's another great pearl. Mini tennis teaches the idea of tennis. Have kids play mini tennis and with rallying, making balls, moving, having fun. There's another comment from Peter. These are just notes from our library. Mini tennis will survive all the bad mumbo jumbo of tennis. Can you just get two kids to just, I like how Oscar Wagner says that with the volley, adjust your feet, touch the ball.
Yeah.
That's the volley. And on the ground stroke, adjust your feet, brush the ball.
Yeah.
And then if you start like it's a volley, then you go underneath, it gets people instant tennis playing pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Make your opponent play an overhead. Dig it out. Make them hit the overhead. Don't quit on a ball. We
were watching a little bit of a match tonight, WTA match, and the girl from Greece, right? Sakari, I believe it is. She had a couple overheads to finish things out, but Jessica Pegula, she made her hit some overheads. She was digging it out.
I'm cheering for her. She's from upstate New York.
Close one, but she didn't. She had a match point.
Pretty strokes don't win a match. It's not like there's a judge like there is in figure skating or gymnastics. Another BURWASH pearl: be your own coach. Here's one.
Yeah. Tennis
players quit because they don't know how to get better. It's kind of like burnout. People don't burn out. It's frustration factor. If you're getting better, you have to, let's say it this way, you have to catch on fire to burn out.
Right.
Yes, this last week, I don't think I answered it all that well. Questions on triple vision. It is the three things: court, ball, and opponent. There's more than just watching the ball. The examples: driving a car, juggling. There's ways to try to prove triple vision versus tunnel vision. It's not a matter of just watching the ball.
Yeah,
you got to know where you are in the court. You got to know where your opponent is. And they have endless ideas. PBI has endless ideas. It comes back to that circle volley drill where the the person in the middle is falling down, and it's amazing how kids can get to the point where they're so athletic. And so many kids have not played other sports; they haven't done any gymnastics. One of our coaches who does a great job, he told me the other day, he goes, "There's no way that kid can do one somersault." They think they're on they're walking the ledge of a skyscraper, and you're saying, no, you just need to go down on this mat, put your head first, go slowly, and just do a somersault. It's not to make fun of anyone, but
no, that's where, like, when we play soccer and kids score, I'm like, all right, now do a cartwheel.
Well, my mother passed away.
When you score, you got to do a cartwheel, or if you can, a backflip.
My mother passed away
struggle.
Almost 10 years ago, and this was 10 years ago. So she used to say, yeah, kids don't play outside anymore. Yeah, you just go play outside. And Braden used to say this about just about every household. People would have one of those little red wagons because they didn't have a second car. They pulled the wagon to the grocery store and they wheeled the groceries home.
Yeah.
But Vic used to say, the way we're teaching little kids is just all wrong. He goes, have you ever hung out where there's any 5 and 6 year olds where they take that red wagon and they turn the corner from one street to the next? Everybody, the kid falls out, they get right back up.
Yeah.
It's like when a kid falls, they don't really get hurt, but the people around them, the adults especially, go, oh, and they go, oh, yeah, and they like, oh, I guess I'm hurt.
Yeah.
When the pandemic came out, the pandemic rolled into our world a year ago in March. It was rather sad. All these videos online, how to practice at home.
Yeah.
You take the ball, you bounce the ball up, you bounce the ball down. And nice guy Braden used to say, well, you would just shut up and give him a lesson, show him how to hit it.
Yeah.
But that's just, again, I've said the word creative many times with PBI. The number of different ideas they had for people to do with racket drills. Here's something, test your students on ways to use your opposite hand. So with 85% of players are right-handed, all the ways to use your left hand. We'd say power X. Actually, Peter, with the extension up, with your right arm extended up, your left arm really is right underneath it. So that it looks like both arms are in a line. Just hanging on to the racket with your left hand during in between point time, just increase the blood flow. Just have your students stop and think what do they have to do with their left hand? We do so many things. Talk about influences. Peter BURWASH, we do a mini tennis drill we call it number 5. Mm-hmm. So when Peter would teach the serve, to go back through that again, if we've already covered it, he would have the people turn backwards. Their back is to the net, and they have to, if they're right-handed, instead of hitting the ball to the right, they toss the ball to the left and hit it over their shoulder.
Yeah,
so
continental grip.
Continental grip, they're really loose. And you certainly don't want to go back and how, players could totally embarrass themselves. They're running to a lob. They don't have time to circle around. They got to run right to it. And they take the racket and just go straight over the head, and they're like,
granny shot, yeah.
That person can't play. But with Peter, when we're playing mini tennis, any type of mini tennis, the kids run to their forehand. As soon as you get to your forehand, put your left hand on the racket. You can relax your hand. Mm-hmm. You got to adjust your grip, have the racket up high, ensure shoulder rotation. And you just got to yell it out over and over again, left hand on the racket, left hand on the racket. Mm-hmm. But coming back to ideas, so very clever how Peter would teach the serve to beginners, serve backwards. And that is an emergency shot.
Yeah.
With, like Collins called it, we mentioned the Bucharest backfire. Coming back to, that's where Peter came up with the theme that tennis is a game of emergency, because he was playing Arthur Ashe and he hit his serve and it came back, 2 times faster than he hit it. Yeah. But when you're playing mini tennis 5, the double hits, it's one of the best drills.
Yeah.
When you put the serve in backwards, you can hit in any service box. But it's just great for movement. And kids stop it, then the ball falls. And then you can do things where on the forehand side, bring the racket up to bring the racket to the other side of your back, so it's really an increased upward angle. Like the same thing you have to do when you hit a topspin lob.
Yeah, on the in Tennis Intelligence Applied course, you got the mini tennis 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are on there. So if you want to check that out on our website, greatbasetennis.com. Little plug here, or YouTube channel.
Mini tennis
Check it out.
mini tennis with a soccer ball. Have the American kids play that. They're going to go off to college, and half the lineup is going to be foreign players. By the way, the Americans, they lost to Honduras, not to make the world group.
Híjoles.
So I think we're a little bit bigger. We have a few more people than they do in Honduras, but I guess they got 11 good international footballers. But mini tennis, you should be able to play mini tennis with a tennis ball. Maybe it's just 3 touches. You can get on YouTube and just plug that in. You could watch Nadal and Djokovic play mini tennis soccer with a tennis ball, and it's amazing. I think of the great Brazilian Quirton.
Yeah,
Being interviewed, he said, "Be okay if I were to do this," and he just bounces the tennis ball up on his feet and his knee and his forehead, just keeps it going while he's being interviewed.
Yeah,
There's actually there was a contest with the women on the tour who could keep the tennis ball going up the longest.
Yeah,
I don't know who won.
There's
but,
a lot
I
of
remember
them.
watching
Really
Halep.
good.
She's quite
Halep's
good at it.
Yeah,
But I don't want to discourage anybody we're working with, but we have every type of medicine ball. I mean, from 2 pounds up.
Yeah, you do.
Maybe 4 pounds. But you can play mini tennis with a medicine ball, but a lot of times the kids can't throw the ball. It's not good for the net because they throw the ball into the net.
Yeah, sometimes we just use a basketball.
Yeah.
Or a soccer ball.
Got to recruit some stronger players. Although we've never been into recruiting. We're on the developmental side.
Yeah.
One thing with the Braden comment from part 1 of this series, just a 2-part chat on PBI, Peter Rush. If someone were to go to Peter's book, Tennis for Life, and you would see the trophy look where he's pointing and scratching the back. But again, the book was written 50 years ago, so it's not to say, well, this is how Peter Roche would teach tennis today. So Some people would be very critical if they did know the science. I said last week that I've never met anyone who really knows how the serve is formulated unless they have a Braden background. And it's, again, say someone has a degree in biomechanics. That doesn't mean they have a degree in tennis.
Yeah.
I don't want to underplay that, but so Peter would do a drill with the left hand where he feeds the ball up, ball's got to bounce, and you have to just catch it with your left hand, so it puts you in position. Just like you tell a kid, okay, can you throw a piece of popcorn up and catch it in your mouth? The popcorn, it can't be way behind you because your mouth is in front of you. But with that, there's information and there's applied information. But I think that's where, Peter, people need to appreciate, that he's an artist with creativity and with communication.
Right.
With Hall of Fames, Peter's in a boatload of Hall of Fames, University of Toronto, USPTA, the Hawaiian Tennis Association, NorCal. He's one of 10 people that are in the Tennis Industry Hall of Fame. I think he should be in the International Hall of Fame. He has so many awards with the USTA, USPTA, ITF. The Mount Rushmore of tennis. If tennis teachers were replacing George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Teddy Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, who would they be? I think there should be a survey. Our 8 pillars, you go right through the 8 pillars. So if you think, okay, not as many people know Coach Verrick as they should. Not as many people know Bill Jacobs as they should. I mean, obviously Jim Lair. I think of Van Horn. Some oldie goldies would know, really respect what Welby's done.
Yeah.
Dennis is in the Hall of Fame. Vic is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But Peter Burwash should be in the Hall of Fame. But I think also too, there's only 4 with the Mount Rushmore: Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln. But Peter Burwash would get a lot of votes.
That'd be a fun post actually. Just put up, see what people say.
For what he's done for the tennis industry, and that's the whole thing about the GreatBase is that we'd like to think that we're carrying a torch for tennis teachers from the past, and so much of what we do, and a lot of the people that, and we certainly have our critics. I know you deal with them every day on social media, but we're getting a lot of positive feedback for our efforts in trying to help tennis teaching. But again, giving credit where credit's due. With PBI, just think they would come in those type of weekends, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, 25 hours, very close to 25 hours, long, short, day on Friday evening, but all day Saturday, all day Sunday. But then we would practice, kids would, I shouldn't say kids, students. Of course, in that program, we had, retirees, we had people that made career changes, people that had completed a 20 plus year in one branch of the military, U.S. services, and people would be challenged. Okay, you have to design lab.
Yeah,
it's you have to design say an hour and a half practice.
Yeah, I think
and do it with a PBI theme. That's really training. They had 450 hours of training. Our 2-year program, we had a lot more than 450.
I think that's what if you're listening out there and you're a club director or whatnot, a head pro, and you have a staff. I think that's one of the best things you can do is just have a staff meeting every week where you're an hour, maybe you're on the court and you can go through some practical application, whether it's drills or, using video, but anything like that you can just go, okay, here's this idea. I heard this or saw this drill. Let's do this drill. Each one will run it, because then you get some practice, like you said. We used to do that with the tennis college and it was great.
No, I think that's one thing about the internet today, not to beat up on young people, but
just beat them up.
To spend time under, some senior citizens who have, put some miles down the road where they've really been in the trenches.
They still can serve a purpose.
PTM.
That was just my joke. That's an ongoing joke. We, Dumb and Dumber, senior citizens can still serve a purpose.
With PTM.
When it comes down to PTM.
There's 10. There's 10 now.
Yeah.
The USTA, United States Tennis Association University Program, I understand there's 10 PTM programs. And I don't know, but what are the curriculums? The one I started is just a year ago. That's no longer in place, no longer operating, no longer available.
Too bad.
But there's Methodist, there's Hope, there's Ferris State. Mm-hmm. But what is the curriculum? And I think it'd be really sad if the young people, they didn't really have a handle on, okay, what did Jim Lair bring to the game? What did what's the Welby Van Horn balance approach, and again all the different things from PBI. Okay, I would just like to end 3 Peter BURWASH-isms.
Give it to us.
This is for lessons and for life. The art is where you start. When you watch someone play, granted you want to know where they are with their competitive schedule, when they're playing again. You don't approach every lesson the same, but the art is where you start. We do tell people you should be able to pick out the primary flaw, and it's like knocking over dominoes, say if it's a technical lesson.
Yeah.
Coming back to that, Burwash, it's a chapter in his book. How can you get a tennis player not to be unstuck, how to get unstuck. Mm-hmm. But the art's where you start. Here's another one. Be 2% selfish and work on your own skill set while you're teaching. So you're working on your demos, you're working on your playing skills. You can be working on your fitness. I think there's a lot of people who are 98% working on their own game.
Exactly. I saw that quite a bit.
This is one I've heard Peter say this before when he just ends a presentation. Be grateful. Remember, you come in the world with nothing, and you leave the world with nothing, so everything in between you appreciate. But I do hope that we've given justice to Peter BURWASH and PBI with these
these thoughts. You leave the world with your intelligence, what you learned while on this journey?
And then with so many things, I mean, in tennis, I would say, do you leave tennis a better place? I always tease and go, if there is a tennis heaven,
Yeah.
if there is a tennis heaven, I know some people who are not going.
Yeah, there are a few.
Because again, do what's right for the game, do what's right for people.
Yeah. The phrase guardian of the game, I think Peter's definitely a guardian of the game. He's doing what's right for the game. And also just the whole idea of, hey, there's a place for you in tennis, whatever you want to do. Not only as a player, but if you want to be involved in tennis and other aspects of it, you can.
Yeah, you would know this better than I would. But I don't think Peter has much of a presentation on the internet, but yet, he has 19 books.
Yeah.
So
get on the internet and find some of those books.
Yeah. But for me, thank you, Peter BURWASH International, and thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah, we'll try to put out more videos. We did put out the volley drill the other day, but we'll put out some more videos on things.
Yeah, on
Peter and
Tennis Intelligence Applied. We talked about, we certainly need to reproduce those, and there's many, many drills just called situational drills.
Yeah.
You can play one bounce doubles. You can play one bounce singles. Peter BURWASH, you can play. We talked about that. You play doubles in one service box. You can play a set in the alley.
Yeah.
With the more ideas, the better. It is interesting at a tennis teaching conference where it's almost like people never talk about strokes. It's like, well, we know the basics of forehands and backhands, but people really do love drills.
Yeah, give me some new drills.
Yeah.
Well, I think the cool part about too with you take a drill and you go, oh, that's a good idea, and then you can actually kind of tweak it in different ways, and you can make 2, 3, 4, 5 drills from one drill idea. And I think that's what's fun, where people get creative, and then you can go off and make your own drills.
And you've heard this on these podcasts. The tennis parents should know this. The computer games, they instantly start giving you the thrill. But what you need to do first is have the will to learn the skill, and then drill, and then you can have some thrills.
Yeah, and then comes the thrill.
But tennis, granted, what I mentioned with Doug Cash, Peter, the pizzazz, that amazing charisma, is that you can, Peter would say also too, it comes down to the personality of the pro. Get kids excited. 2 kids are out there, they can't rally, but no, you can make them, get them so they can rally. It's like Dennis Vandermeer, he would take someone who's close to 100 years of age, 90 years old, and say, I will get that person to hit 100 balls.
Yeah.
Have them sit in a chair, come really close to the net, and just hold the racket up like this. And he's moving his feet and just tapping the ball.
Yeah.
And gets a lot of, Peter obviously is, and Dennis was, great showman. And next thing you know, everybody's counting and create that enthusiasm. There's a story in one of his books where I just have a memory for these kind of things, where he gets somebody to hit 142 balls in a row. Mm-hmm. But why you have a memory for it is that we have that story on audio tape, and I've heard him tell the story and get pumped up about getting people to rally, get wrapped up in somebody else's game.
Right.
And if kids can only rally 2 balls and now they go to 3, they're 50% better. If they rally 3, they get 1 better, they're 33% better. Yeah. But enthusiasm's contagious.
Yeah. And energy breeds energy.
Right. And so is a lack of it. And that's where I thought, certainly a lot of value information on the nutritional tape we put up. But my idea in putting that up was just for Peter, the young people of today, to just listen to one of his presentations based on his energy level.
Yeah. No, exactly. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. You can check us out online at GreatBase Tennis. Find us on social media at GreatBase Tennis. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you listening have already checked it out, but if you haven't, if you're new to this podcast, thanks for listening.
But there's only like 4 or 5 podcasts in the whole world, right? I mean, aren't we like the 5th?
5 or 6.
Aren't we number 5? There's just
something like that.
It's a real original idea to have
now.
A podcast, right?
Yeah.
It's like everybody and their brother has a podcast.
A little bit.
There's just so much information out there. And Great. But we aspire to go from being a snowflake to a snowball. Don't think we're ever going to be an avalanche. One day that we will be the standing snowman.
Yeah, we'll be the standing snowman. It'd be great.
To never melt.
All right, everyone.
All right, Fitzell.
Thanks, Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith, it's been a pleasure. Until next week.
We'll have to do it again sometime. Number 33, Patrick Waugh, great hockey player. Peter Burwash, great hockey player. We're over and out.
Auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss.